Hey YouTube, welcome back to another edition of Beekeepers Buzz Inside the Hive edition. So today we're going to be doing our hive inspections for April, and we're going to take a look at how our hives look. We're going to do a mite count. We're going to do some treatment for the summertime, and then we're also going to do some preventative maintenance for hive beetles. So come with us as we walk through each hive and take a look, and we'll get started. Now we're going to be opening up hive number 1 and see how they're doing. So first impressions as we open up the hive, we're seeing maybe 4 or 5 frames that have some activity on it. And then as we're seeing, they still have some work to do on these other frames. So I like to take one frame out just because it allows me a little bit more room to work. And we can see on this one they're starting to draw it out, but nothing substantial yet. So as we work our way to the middle, we're going to see more activity on these frames. And now on this one right here, I'm seeing some nectar they're bringing in. This is clear liquid right here, and then some pollen as well. We have our nectar, clear liquid right here, and we have some pollen. And then we are seeing some capped brood and some eggs on this frame. So nothing too alarming yet, just typical hive right now. We'll be able to see more as we get into it. Now here on this frame we are seeing some older capped brood, and we are seeing some eggs down here in the cells, and still some decent activity. And again, same thing on this. We're seeing some eggs down here in the cells and some capped brood, but very spotty. So just something that we want to keep in mind as we're working our way through here. Each frame is going to tell a different story, and then it's up to us as the beekeepers to put it all together. So again, we're seeing pollen, we're seeing eggs, and we're seeing the different stages of larvae, but not really a robust bee population. If we see right here, we got an uncapped brood, but as you can look around it, it looks like they're still working on capping it. And we are seeing signs of our queen. We haven't spotted her yet, but so far everything is pointing to a healthy hive. Just not very active. We're seeing a lot of eggs, a lot of larvae, some pollen here. So no real capped honey in this hive. We're seeing a little bit of nectar and a little bit of pollen on those frames, and a little bit more pollen and some capped honey on this one. And then we got this chunk of, looks like propolis maybe, on the bottom of this hive. So we are in April, and we had a decent little honey flow. But this one just doesn't look like it's quite finding that nectar. As we work our way through this hive, we're seeing eggs. We're seeing different stages of larvae, but we're not seeing a whole lot of pollen reserves, and we're not seeing a whole lot of honey reserves. So what we're going to do here is, because the population is low, we're not going to do a mite check, but we are still going to treat for mites. So we'll be using Apivar. It does not have any temperature restrictions, and because we're not using honey supers, it will be safe. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to add back our 1 gallon feeder, and we are opting not to use the cap and ladder system. We just got some floater bars in there, so as we fill it up with syrup, those bars will float on the surface, allowing the bees to stand on them and not drowned. These 1 frame feeders can be quite the hassle to get in, so you're just going to have to make a little extra room and get those frames nice and tight. And then again, you just want to make sure that you're not in any danger of rolling your queen. So just be extra cautious as you're putting this stuff in. So once we got our feeder in there, we're going to grab some Pro Sweet and we're going to give them probably about a half a gallon. And then we will check again and make sure that they are consuming that feed. So I like to just go for the widest part of it, so that way we're not worried about drowning any bees or spilling it all over our hive and potentially causing an ant issue. So we have our feed in there now. Now we're going to go ahead and use our Apivar strips, and this calls 2 for a single brood box, and this is a nuke. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 right here in the middle of these frames and hopefully catch that brood as it comes out in the next couple weeks. So those of you not familiar, this is what the Apivar strip's going to look like. It is 2 strips sealed together, and you just got to kind of break them apart. And now they have this little triangle tab here that you can bend out, and you can use that to hang it on your frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 right here in the middle. And then we'll put our second one of the frame. Okay, so we got that targeted at the most centralized brood location, which is going to be right here in the middle. These are our 5 active frames, and then these 3 seem to have the most brood on them. So what we're going to do is just place those right in the middle. And then before we close this up, because we are in the southeast, what we want to do is we want to be preventative about beetles. Now, as we are doing our hive inspection, we did not see a lot of beetles coming through here. And a lot of time when you open your hive, you'll see them all along the crevice of your lid, especially if you have a major beetle issue. But as of right now, I didn't see any beetles, but they are here, so it's best to be proactive. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert this beetle blaster trap, and the bees will corral them into these little holes, and we're going to add a beetle oil in here that will help trap those beetles, and then we'll check that during our next hive inspection. And then beetle blaster or beetle trap oil, and you can use any food safe oil, so canola, vegetable, any kind of oil that you want as long as it's food safe. This right here is just a special blend with a little bit of pollen sub in it to help attract the beetles to this trap. So we're just going to give that a good shake, open it up, and then we're just going to fill this about halfway. And it doesn't have to be accurate, but you just want enough oil in there that it's going to stick those beetles and not allow them to get out. And because we only have 5 active frames right now and not too many drawn out comb on the rest of them, we're just going to put 1 beetle gel in here for now, and hopefully that will help us in the future. So that's hive number 1. We're going to go ahead and close this up, and then we'll get on to hive number 2. All right, so here we are at hive number 2. We're same thing, go frame by frame, get us a total read on the whole hive, and then at the end of our hive inspection, we'll make a call on what kind of solutions we want to add to this hive or what kind of preventative measures we want to add to this hive. So let's go ahead and smoke that entrance. I like to add a little bit of smoke in there just to kind of drive them down So that way you are minimizing damage to this colony as possible. So with this one, as we can tell, we do have some hive beetles right here in the crevice of the lid, and you can kill them and crush them as you're seeing them. But again, this is just going to be an ongoing battle, so it's best to do some sort of preventative maintenance with your beetle jails. So that's something to keep an eye out when you're first popping open that lid. And as we can tell from the comparison from hive number 1 straight to hive number 2, we got a lot more activity, and it looks like they're crawling on a little bit more frames. So we're going to smoke these girls down just so they're not in our way. And then again, I take that first frame out just to have a little bit of room to work. And then always take a look, make sure your queen's not sneaking around on there. So right here, they are making some weird comb. They got some tunnels going inside. They got some drone brood here and some nectar, and then some capped honey up here. Now, as a beekeeper, if you didn't like the way this comb looked, you could scrape it all off and essentially just make them start over. But they are doing all right, so we're not going to mess with them too much. And then again, just be very careful if you do decide to do that, because your queen could absolutely be down in here somewhere. There's no rules on where that queen has to be. She can be anywhere in this hive. So as you're going through, that's why we're very cautious of how we move the frames and try to minimize as much damage as possible, just because we're not 100% sure where she's at quite yet. So first frame down, we're going to go to the second frame in. All right, so we're seeing a lot of nectar on this frame and a lot of pollen. And then again, capped honey up here. So that's good to see. And then we flip it around to this other side, and we're seeing a whole lot of capped honey right here. All that. And then again, we're seeing some capped brood. We're seeing some nectar. And I'm not quite seeing any eggs yet, but we're only 2 frames into it, so no real cause for concern yet. As you come closer into the spring, like we are in April, especially if you didn't start out with nukes, if you already had an overwintered hive, you definitely want to be paying attention to population. You want to be paying attention to signs of swarming. So again, right here, plenty of nectar in this frame. Some little scattered pollen throughout, and then some drone brood down here at the bottom. But because they're building this down at the bottom, this comb has a tendency to get stuck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoke them as best as I can off of here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove this whole bottom thing of wax. And then what we're going to do is add this straight to our 5-gallon bucket that we keep in our hive yard. So that way we can process this at the end of the year. So one thing that I am noticing about this hive is I'm seeing quite a bit of drones. But with us being in the spring, it is that time of year. But just something you want to keep an eye out for. So we got some capped worker brood. Still not seeing much in the way of eggs. All right, so that's what we kind of want to see in these empty spaces in between these capped brood. We are starting to see some eggs, so that's a good sign. Seeing our queen would be even better. And we're seeing pollen. So all good signs. And this one doesn't have too much comb right here on the bottom, so we're just going to use our fingers to kind of pick it off. And These two frames are sticking together, so we're just going to pull them out together. And again, just being extra cautious just because we don't quite know where our queen is at yet. So we're seeing some capped brood. We're seeing nectar and honey, so they're bringing stuff in. Seeing some drone cells, but nothing too crazy, nothing that we need to panic about. And then we'll go through our last drawn out frame. All right, and then our last two frames look like they are actively working on them. So you can tell how interested they are in this new foundation and how busy they are working it out. So as far as population goes, this hive is looking great. We didn't see a whole lot of eggs, so that is something definitely to keep in mind as you're doing your hive inspections. But we did see eggs and we did see capped brood, just not a whole lot. So we just want to keep an eye out, make sure that our queen's not failing and that she is still doing her job, so that way hopefully come fall time we can put some supers on here. So with this one, because our population is strong and they are working, bringing in nectar and pollen, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get a mite count on this hive. So that way we can tell where we're at. And then just having one in the same yard will be a good indicator of probably where our other hives are at. Obviously, if you have 20, 30, 40 hives, you can't sit here and do a mite count to all of them. So what you want to do is just kind of take it as a percentage and test a percentage of your hives and just treat all the same, especially if they're in the same yard. So we have our Varroa Easy Check in here with about a quarter cup of alcohol, half a cup of alcohol. And what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 300 bee sample, which in this basket there is a line that indicates that. It will be the top line that will indicate the 300 mark. So because we have all these bees sitting right here on our top bar, what we're going to do is we're just going to scoop them in there as best as possible. And then we can even get some from the side if we need to. And then we're just going to slide them right in our Easy Check and give them a nice shake. And we want to shake for about 30 seconds, just enough to cause the friction to knock that bee off, or I'm sorry, to knock that mite off, so that way we can get an accurate count at the bottom of our Easy Check. So as we do this, we just want to keep in mind that we're worried about the overall health of this colony. So bees' lifespans are anywhere from 30 to 40 days, depending on the time of year. So they're gladly sacrificing themselves so that way the good of the colony can prevail. So as we get that shook up, we will take out our basket, and then down here at the bottom, we'll be able to count some mites. In this hive right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 mites. So with this hive, because they are still working out, drawing out some comb on these empty frames, we're going to go ahead and add a feeder back to this hive and hit it with a shot of syrup. And then again, same thing, we're just opting not to use the cap and ladder system. We're just going to use some floater bars in there. Just makes it a little bit easier as far as adding the syrup goes. And we're going to hit them with, again, probably about a half a gallon. Just be careful not to make a huge mess in your hive. We don't want to invite any more pests that they already have. And if you get that sugar syrup everywhere, you could definitely attract some ants. All right, so we got our feed in there. Let's get our apivar medication in there. In hive number 1, we showed you the triangle on the apivar strips that allows you to prop that up onto the frame and allows that to sit so that way those bees can rub across that as that brood's hatching out and kill those mites. So what we're going to do on these ones is they also have a little hole up here. You can put a toothpick or a stir through, and that's what I'm using, just some coffee stirs. And what that will do is just cause a little brace, so that way you can slip those right down here into the middle. And then same thing with this one, just having it hang just a little bit, so that way you can just slide it right down in there. And I'm going to space these ones a little bit further apart than I did the last ones, just because this hive is a little bit more populated and they had some eggs and some brood on some multiple frames. So now that we have that in there, and we did see hive beetles in this one, nothing too bad, but when we opened that lid we probably saw anywhere from 10 to 15 hive beetles. So we're going to add 2 beetle traps to this hive, and again, just filling it up about halfway with oil. And we're just going to slip these right in between those frames. And as we get our lid in there, it will help us keep those down a little bit more. Then again, we're just going to put this right over here by that feed to give the bees some place to corral those beetles into. So hive number 2, overall impressions. Our population looks good. We did not see a lot of eggs, but we did see some, and we did not see a lot of capped brood. So definitely something we want to keep an eye out for during our next hive inspection, and possibly start thinking about solutions. So if we do have a failing queen, now is the perfect time of year where a lot of beekeepers should have some queens readily available for you, or Mann Lake in general has queens available as well. So we added some feed, we added some mite medication. We had 4 mites per 300, and then we added 2 beetle jails to help out with that beetle issue. And then we did remove 1 frame to add that 1 frame feeder. So now that we're all done there, we're just going to close this one back up and let them continue. All right, so here we are with hive number 4. If you remember from last video, we lost hive number 3 due to a hive beetle issue. So that's going to help us, and that's kind of why we're doing our preventative hive beetle maintenance right now. So we're going to pop this open and see what we're looking like. But just the entrance is telling me that it's a little bit more populated than the other hives. And again, we're just going to break that propolis seal on that lid. So this one, again, hive beetles all over the lid. I would say roughly about 20 of them. And then we saw some more scatter down into the box as we kind of opened the lid up. Saw some hive beetles. So definitely a good thing that we brought those traps out. And at the entrance of this hive, we saw quite a bit more than the other 2 hives. So again, look at this. Fresh wax being drawn out onto this foundation. So that's always good to see. And then this liquid in here, as you can see that shine on there. That's nectar that they're bringing in. And still working on that other side. So I didn't see my queen on here, so we're safe to go ahead and set this one down. And then we're going to take a look. It looks like they got a lot more frames drawn out than the other 2. It's full of nectar and capped honey right here. Now remember, if you remember from the last 2 videos, we have not fed these bees at all. We were just letting them grow on the natural nectar flow that was happening. So you can tell the difference in between the 3 hives that we've inspected, and we can see the performance of each individual hive is different. This one right here.
Yeah.
This one is our drone. You can tell by the queen has a really fat abdomen, whereas this drone is just kind of fat all over. All right, so this is good signs. This is what we want to see. We want to see capped brood. We want to see capped honey. We want to see the larvae, and then if you look down in there, you can see some eggs as well. And these eggs are slightly turned, so she's been here within the last 2 days. And then again, a lot of capped honey, some capped brood, and then some eggs and larvae. So good signs. And then this one does have comb all throughout the bottom, but we're going to go ahead and leave that because this hive is doing very well. And we're going to let them continue to work the way they're working. So we can definitely tell the difference. We got pollen, we got capped brood, we got larvae, and we got honey. This is the ideal frame that you would want to see when you're doing hive inspections. And if we could just see this on about 4 or 5 other frames, we would be looking good. So both sides of this look great, and this hive is going pretty strong. So again, as we're going through these hive inspections, you're just reading the frame, and then at the end of it, you're going to draw your conclusions when you put everything together. And we're just identifying everything on the frame as far as our capped honey, our pollen, our capped brood. We got nectar backfilled in some of these cells, and then we also got some eggs in some of these cells. And we have not seen our queen yet, but that's all right because we're seeing all good signs in this hive. So nothing too alarming yet. And they're bringing in plenty of pollen and plenty of nectar, this hive is. So we fed the other two. But I don't think this one will need feed. Plenty of pollen reserves in here. And then we can tell the fresh comb by this nice white appearance. And then plenty of pollen. It looks like they might have one more frame that they're working on, so we'll pull this out. Take a look. It really is like a 3D printer, the way it's kind of just raising up, seemingly out of nothing. But that's where that feed and that nectar come into play to help those bees have that energy to produce that wax. So we did not find our queen this inspection, but this hive definitely is our strongest. And definitely seeing signs that she is there with all the capped brood, all the eggs that we saw. So we have no real worries about this hive other than the beetles, which we are going to put some beetle gels in here along with the beetle oil as a preventative. And then we're also going to treat, because our last mite count on hive number 2 indicated that we definitely had some mites in that one, which could be true and probably is true for the remainder of our bee yard. So just put that one back in, nice and easy, and then we'll go ahead and get our beetle gels ready to go. Just going to spread these out in between. And because this hive is so robust, we're going to spread these out a little bit more than we have for the last two. Remember, we want to put these in our most concentrated brood area. So that way, as they're hatching out, they're coming in contact with that amatraz and paralyzing that mite. So now that we got everything done that we want to do, we'll give them a little bit of smoke. So that way, they're out of the way when we put on that lid. So overall impressions of hive number 4, we had plenty of honey reserves, plenty of nectar coming in, and plenty of pollen reserves that they're turning into that bee bread to feed to those larvae. So we're seeing a lot of great things in this hive, a real big, robust population. So out of the 3 that we've inspected today, I would say that this one is our top worker. So that takes care of the 3 hives that we are maintaining actively as a beekeeper. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move over to hive number 5. And this is going to be the hive that we're just going to leave alone and see what happens. So let's take a look over there. All right, so here we are at hive number 5. This is the one that we're not going to do anything to. We're just letting nature take its course. And we're going to take a look and see how this one is doing. So as we pop the lid, not seeing any beetles in this one, so and again, same as always, we'll start at one end, removing one frame, so that way we have a little bit of room to manipulate the rest. Now this was started the same time as all the other ones. You can see they got a little bit of honey and they got a little bit of nectar. And we are seeing one lonely hive beetle so far. And then again, some more drawn out comb right here. Couple more hive beetles in here. So definitely something. And if we remember right, that this hive was very small when we first got it, when we put it in here. So they're going to take a little bit longer to get going. And we got some eggs and larvae and a few capped brood, which just indicates that this could just be a recent hatch. And then the queen came over here and was backfilling all the open cells with eggs. And then good little frame full of eggs. And then this one also full of eggs and larvae. And with a small hive like this, it's definitely, we should run into our queen soon. This one has a whole lot of pollen on it. You can see it shining in the sun. And they are bringing in some nectar. So this one is definitely on the slower side of all of our hives. They're still drawing some stuff out, but just the population is not there. So what we're going to do real quick is just run through one more time, seeing if maybe we can put eyes on our queen. And again, there's no rules on where this queen should be at. So she could be anywhere in this box, including actually in the box somewhere. So as of right now, I'm not seeing her, but we did see some signs that she's here with some eggs and larvae and some capped brood. And as we look in there, we can see a lot of, and I'm seeing some couple dead bees down here, so I just wanted to push them out, make sure that we don't have an issue. And it looks like we might have an issue with this hive. This is our queen right here. She's still alive. but just barely. And we can tell by that long abdomen right there. So this is definitely going to be an issue with this hive. So because we saw some eggs in here, what we're going to do is we're not going to panic quite yet. It's still early in the season. We're going to see if maybe they can make a new queen out of these cells, or out of these eggs that are in there. So because she's still alive, technically this hive is not queenless, which is why we have not saw any signs as far as them making another queen cell. So with her in this state, she's not going to last much longer. So we're going to go ahead and dispatch her, and then we're going to rely on these bees to do what bees do and take one of those eggs and create a queen cell. So we're going to come back to this hive in about 3 days just to observe. In 3 days, we should start to see some form of a queen cell. And then day number 8, we should see that queen cell more protruding and then capped as well. So from the time that egg starts to they start turning it into a queen, to the time that queen shows back up after her mating flights and starts laying eggs, we're looking at roughly about 20 to 30 days. So we'll still have some time to tell if this hive is going to make it in the meantime. But as of right now, like I said, your queen can be anywhere in the box. And then with the signs that we saw there, we saw eggs, we saw larvae, but we did not see our queen with that small population. So that's what made me want to go back through and look through the hive one more time to see if we can find her. And then I just happened to see some bees on the bottom board corralling around this bee. So that's what led to the indication that we had a queen issue, and now that we see it firsthand, we know that we have a queen issue. So we're going to go ahead and dispatch of her, and then we're going to close this lid back up, and then we're going to come and do a re-inspection in 3 days and see if we see any signs of them making a new queen. All right, so we're done with our hive inspections on hives 1, 2, 4, and 5. Overall impression of the hives: hive 1 and 2, they were on the little bit of weaker side, but we identified that we didn't have any kind of queen issues. We saw eggs, we saw larvae, just not a whole lot of population. We did a mite count on hive number 2. We had 4 mites per the 300. So we decided to go ahead and treat all of our hive. Hive number 1 was definitely the weakest. We saw not a lot of nectar resources, not a lot of capped honey. So we went ahead and added feed, added our beetle jails there, and we also added our apivar strips. So right now, hive number 4 is rocking and rolling. They got a huge population. They're bringing in plenty of resources. And then hive number 5, that one we did identify a dead queen. There are still eggs in there, so we're going to let the bees do what they do and make a new queen, and then we'll take you into that hive as that is happening. So not so bad right now in the spring. We were hoping for a little bit more resources coming in to hive 1 and 2, but we went ahead and supplemented them with a little bit of syrup to kind of get them boosted and ready to go. So make sure you hit the like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know which one you're rooting for. Let us know some preventative measures that we can take for these bees in the upcoming months. So again, this is Joshua with Mann Lake, and happy beekeeping.